What is going on today? We are here to check out a phone that will last you all week. Okay, that is not any actual papers, but I will say before we even dive into this thing, I opened this phone up 4 days ago. Now it was at 77% when I opened the phone. I have not charged it, I have not plugged it in at all. I have used the phone to play games, to take videos, to film underwater. I have downloaded benchmarks, I have browsed the internet, I have watched YouTube on this thing over the last 4 days. And it is currently at 65%. Now, that said, let's keep in mind on a couple of quick things here. That phone has not been connected to any type of GSM or cellular network just yet. That is a big drain on batteries, but still, that thing is impressive. But first, let's jump into the unbox. So this is the Oukitel, you guys let me know how to say that. I'm not really sure, but it's the WP35 5G. Now they did send this over to me to review. This is a sponsored video from Oukitel. The main ingredients is that I get to be upfront, honest, and completely truthful in this review. So you guys will see the phone is not currently in the box. That's because I've been using it. Wanted to give it a good test first, but this is an included case that comes with it. It's a nice kind of like rubbery silicone feeling. Again, it's not the most expensive case in the world, but I love that it's included. That's always great. Now I have not gone past this part in the box, so let's dig into it. Packaged very well. Future Gary here. The phone finally died. I started a video test last night before I went to sleep. I got a playlist together of a bunch of really long movies on YouTube and I let it play. This thing got just over 20 hours of continuous play on a single battery. I charged it back up a little bit afterwards and it was still sitting on the movie screen. Nice. All right, back to the rest of the video. Starting out, you have your warranty, a couple of disclaimers, and a rather thick manual. Check that out. Also included in the box is something I have not seen in quite a while. We have ourselves a power brick. Now, this is a fast charger. This will charge at 15 to 27 watts, depending on the cable you use with it and the phone it's attached to. I'm guessing the cable they send with it is fast charge compatible. We'll test it out here in just a little bit. Overall, pretty nice packaging. All right, so checking out the specs on this thing. This thing comes with a 6.6-inch FHD Plus display. It works on 5G. It has an octa-core processor. Now, it's the Dimensity 6100 Plus. Diving straight into what that means, basically, if you look around, do some research on the processor, it is a very efficient processor, but as we'll see later in the review, it's not the fastest in the world, but I don't think that's what they were going for with this phone. So on the back, we have a 64 megapixel rear camera. We have a 32 megapixel front camera. Pause for a second on the specs here. Look at this camera array in the back. This camera array is an absolute monster. It does not stick out that far, but the phone itself is pretty thick. Here, let's give a quick size comparison. So this is my S24 Ultra. It's about 40% thicker than my S24 Ultra. Actual dimension-wise, not too much different. The part about this phone that makes this thing absolutely crazy is something I mentioned at the beginning. This phone has an 11,000 milliamp hour battery. And from the weight, I believe it without a doubt in my mind. Next up, it also has a gravity sensor, a light sensor, a proximity sensor, dual SIM cards. Now for dual SIM cards, a lot of people haven't really thought about this in a while or don't. But dual SIM cards is great, especially if you're a business owner or you run a business. Say you run construction, you want to have two phone lines, one for the business, one for yourself. You can have both phone numbers right on here. All right, so specs aside, let's jump into the actual phone now. First off, again, take a look at this. This thing it's unique. I actually love the look of this. I don't love the weight, but it's one of those things in your mind you got to decide. Is the extra weight you're carrying around worth that massive amount of battery life? Like, I'm not kidding. If you look here, you can see 65% battery life. I filmed probably 15 different test videos with this, took a whole bunch of pictures. This thing has been on nonstop for 4 days. I browsed the internet, I downloaded apps, I played games. I even ran a couple of benchmarks and it's still at 65%. Honestly, that kind of blows my mind. So let's start by jumping into the actual phone itself. So first off, the Android that's on it, it's a custom variation. It doesn't seem to have a ton of bloatware, but it came with a few things that are a little bit odd to me. Like it has this child mode here, this easy launcher. It does have a game mode. Now, the only thing I noticed about the game mode is all it does is stop calls and texts from coming through and interrupting your game. It doesn't seem to speed up the phone in any way, so I would kind of consider that bloatware. So coming into it, you have a screen resolution of 1080 by 2408. Your ROM size, your storage is 256 gigabytes, not bad. I don't see a way to update the screen refresh rate. I believe it's 60 hertz. This does also come with 8 gigabytes of RAM. So I actually didn't test this out yet. I will test this out a bit, but you have the ability to use some of the internal ROM to expand your memory. It's kind of interesting. I've honestly never heard of that. So it's gonna go ahead and give it a reset. So next up, let's talk about the camera. First, we're gonna talk about the good. The waterproof ability on this phone. Actually, going around it, if you take a look right here, they boast IP68 rating. Well, they're not wrong. I took this phone with me to the lake. I recorded some footage. Here, check this out. So under the water, the biggest downside to this phone in the camera is I cannot find any optical image stabilization. So unless you're recording with this thing on a tripod, it is not going to be a super pleasant experience for the most part, but underwater, this thing kind of shines. So you'll notice the footage here. I was swimming underneath the boat. By the way, this is Higgins Lake in Michigan. Absolutely beautiful, fantastic sandbar. The water, awesome, crystal clear. If you guys have never been and you're anywhere near the area, make sure to check it out. So being underwater, you're not quite as jittery, you're not as shaky. The water kind of slows down the fluid motion, making the video up here a lot smoother. Now here, I set it on a tripod underwater because that's what I do as a YouTuber. I put things on tripods and stick them underwater. I wish I could say that this was my first time doing this, but it's not. All right, guys, this is the front-facing camera, the 32 megapixel on the Oukitel WP35. Now, if we move around a bit here, as long as I stay fairly stable in the middle, it seems to handle it pretty well. Honestly, the front stabilization seems to be somewhat digital, but handles it quite a bit better, but you see just a little bit of shaking and it's super obvious. Now this is the front-facing camera on the Oukitel WP35. You kind of move around a little bit. You can see quite a bit of image blur there. Like as I move, it kind of jitters around quite a bit. All right, so for recording with the camera, I'm going to just have normal lighting in here because most people aren't going to have studio or any kind of recording lights on, but even trying to hold my hand steady, it just does not handle it super well. But again, guys, that's not quite what this camera is designed for. That's not what this phone itself is designed for. Now, if you get it kind of slow and steady, it can look pretty decent. Okay, so we are outside right now. This is the night vision test. Just kind of checking things out here. Now, inside this seemed to work a lot better. Now, it does seem to work a lot better on certain reflective surfaces. Obviously, the way night vision works, that does make sense. But it is pitch black. Like right now, I cannot see the FX4 symbol in front of me. All right, just another quick shot for the night vision. This is indoor. Now, I do notice the night vision does not have a very long range. About 3 to 4 feet in front of you is about the best you're going to get. Yep, there's more of the bird scooters, guys. They're still kicking around. All right, so let's go around the phone a little bit more. So right here on the side, you actually have your dual SIM card tray. This is not just a SIM card tray, this can also dual as an SD card. Now you can see the rubber ring here, definitely helping support their waterproof ability. I mean, overall, it didn't fall out, it's not having any issues, not a drop of water got in this phone, and it was underwater for a good 20 minutes. Sliding that back in. Now keep in mind, this also does not use a typical SIM card tool. There is no hole to push in. You kind of just put something behind here and pop it open. The benefit to that is there's no extra hole for water to get in. There's not something else they have to try to waterproof. So this thing is pretty solid. This green mark here, this is going to be your actual fingerprint sensor. Just gonna kind of move it around a bit, get a couple of different angles. All right, so we got the fingerprint added. Let's go ahead and test it out, see how fast it works. Actually, that's pretty quick. The face unlock seems to work great. All right, next, let's go ahead and get into the actual gameplay. So the main game I was testing on is Hole.io. It's kind of a fun game and I feel like it's pretty good to test on because you get a lot of assets going when you get bigger. But I don't know if you guys can quite see it or not, but every once in a while, it already gets a little jittery. This is not going to be your top-end gamer here. Given, totally playable. I played this game testing this out for a couple hours the other day. So gaming wise, it's not too bad, but that is where the high efficiency processor kind of lacks a little bit. Once you play the game for a while and you get to the bigger stages, a lot more particles, a lot more effects, a lot more units being loaded and generated, it kind of starts to stutter a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, at no point did it become unplayable. It's just clear that it's not the main point of focus. Now we're gonna take a quick page from Jerry Rig Everything and we're gonna give this thing the bend test. Yeah, this thing doesn't creak, it doesn't crack, it does not move. This thing is crazy tough. Now that said, all right, so let's talk about it a bit. I haven't quite told you guys the price yet. So with everything you guys have seen here, do me a favor, pause the video, go down below, comment how much you think this phone is. Don't go look it up, don't come back and comment about it. Please, let me know down below, what do you guys think this phone should run for? Quad-core processor, 5 gigahertz, 11,000 milliamp hour battery, fairly decent camera, night vision built right into the phone. That is actually pretty clear. And it comes with its own fast charger. All right, now that you've unpaused, I will tell you guys, this phone right now is $339 US. That's a pretty phenomenal deal. I mean, the construction on this thing is second to none. It's got these nice rugged aluminum side panels. You have rubber all the way around the edge. Basically, this thing has a built-in case. But that said, let's go ahead and jump into the next thing that I didn't care for quite as much. Of course, I would get a Temu commercial.
Analysis. Today we are checking out the top 6 most not sold items on Temu. So one of my representatives over at Temu.
So this is the audio turned all the way up.
Find this interesting. They said here are the top 5 things, although their list had 6.
So the speaker is not great. It sounds a little bit muffled. It only comes out of one side. I do believe this was entirely around the design of making this thing as waterproof and reliable as possible, so I can understand. Sure, it's not the fastest smartphone in the world. It's not the thinnest. It's certainly not the lightest. I mean, I'm not kidding. This thing probably weighs double what my S24 Ultra weighs. No joke, double. But for the price, this thing, the build quality on this thing, I mean, just check out the finish on the sides. Look at that. I mean, the back, plastic, but full aluminum rails all the way around the side, the rubber housing. And when I had this thing underwater, even with some of my other phones, you go to film underwater and the first thing you see is a bunch of bubbles coming out that make you a little bit nervous. Most of them are okay, and then you got to deal with that weird speaker noise for the next couple of hours. Not with this one. So look at that, we're down to 63% after all the time I've been using this thing. All right guys, so that is gonna be just about it for this phone. Let me know what you guys think down below. Is this the kind of phone you guys would like to use? I don't normally do phone reviews, but when Oukitel wanted to send over something like this, I had to check it out. I mean, this thing is just, it's unique. You know, there's not a lot of phones kicking around like this that you really see in everyday use. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks a whole bunch to Oukitel for sending this over and sponsoring today's video. This is a pretty awesome product. Links are going to be down below. If we have a discount code, it'll be down there with it. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you, and we'll see you guys on the next one.